So, welcome to our Hug user group of Lansing meeting today, workshop. And as Angelique said, we are creating Facebook lead ads. This is a workshop, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. I'm Gina. As I said, I'm digital marketing manager with Inverve Marketing. Just some fun facts. I'm obviously a big fan of analytics, social media marketing, pay-per-click advertising, but also pickleball, smoothies. Like to have fun outside. I love anything fruit related. So that's just a little bit about me. And wanted to run quickly through the agenda. So going through just what to expect, we'll have the best practices, a little bit of information about what are lead ads, when to use them, that sort of thing. The actual workshop will at the end go through a Q&A and open up the presentation so that you can interact with us and share any work that you've done while we're on the call, or maybe you've done it prior, and answer your questions. And then we'll just do a wrap up and talk about the next hug. So let's dive into this. What are Facebook lead ads? It seems like a simple question, but I know that there is a little bit of confusion out there. So I'm going to explain there's actually two ways that you can create lead ads in Facebook. This is a screenshot directly from Facebook because I thought it would help you. It would explain and show a little better what I'm talking about. So this is just the traditional way. Most people think, traditional way that you do Facebook ads, or any kind of ad, really, lead ad. You're sending traffic to a landing page, right? And on that landing page, somebody can fill out a form. There's some sort of lead magnet or some premium content that they want, whatever it is, to capture their email. So that would be the traditional way of creating a lead ad, not only on Facebook, but Google, all sorts of different traffic sources, correct? So that's how we would think of it in a traditional way. But option two is what we're going to be talking about today, which is you actually can fill out a form directly on Facebook. So when you start an ad campaign in Facebook and a lot of other platforms, you're going to tell that platform, what is the objective? What are you trying to get from this campaign? How do you want it set up? And in Facebook, you can see the option here is to select lead generation. And that means that you are also going to use a form within Facebook. And when somebody clicks on that ad, a form will pop up and they have the option to fill it out and submit it. And then it becomes a lead. What's beautiful is HubSpot is integrated beautifully with Facebook. So it becomes a seamless process. And the way that, so let me just stop because I want to make sure you understand these. There are two ways to go about it. What we're doing is the second way. And this is a streamlined way that makes sure when somebody sees the ad, they immediately can fill out the form. And in fact, that form is often pre-populated. It is pre-populated with their name and their email address. The email address they use to sign into Facebook. That happens automatically. You can put more questions and fields in there, and we'll get into that. But that is the difference between what would be considered more a traditional traffic ad to a landing page versus the actual form within Facebook. And I'm going to show you right now what that looks like. So somebody gets an ad in their feed on Facebook, and that's what the very far left screen is here. This is what an ad looks like. It pops up. If they click learn more on it, then it gives you a slide, and you can put different information in here, whatever it is that you are. Why would they want to give you their information? So you're going to explain what it is. They can then click on it. Yes, I do want to do whatever it is. In this case, schedule a discovery call. Then here's the form that pops up. Like I said, you can change whatever these fields are. And typically what would happen is their name and their email would pre-populate, but in this case, we're doing work email, and most people do not use their work email to sign into Facebook, but that is an option. Then once they fill it out, they click next, and then they can see a summary of everything they've put in. Your privacy policy can be listed here, so folks can look at that if they're a little uncomfortable, and then they can hit, slide it to submit, and then there could be like a thank you, basically a slide that pops up. I guess these would be considered slides. Again, they're all within Facebook. You've not left Facebook. This can happen on mobile. This can happen on, if you're on desktop, doesn't matter what device you're on, unless you, as an advertiser, only want to make it for people on their mobile devices. But typically, if you're going to run it all sorts of ways and devices, they'll be able to see it no matter what they're using to look at Facebook. So that's how it works and how it looks. Obviously, there's ways to modify it and make it different. So now I just wanted to explain a little bit about why you want to use Facebook lead ads versus maybe the traditional ad that I mentioned in the first place. What would be the difference or advantages to that? So one of the main things is that Meta, which is the overarching company of Facebook, Instagram, and a lot of other, including, Meta basically doesn't want you to leave their platform or their different, like Instagram, Facebook. It wants to keep you within the metaverse. So if Facebook prefers it, generally the ad's going to perform a little better. It's going to cost a little less. And that has been my experience when I'm running Facebook ads that are these lead ads and no one has to leave. I tend to get a better cost per click and better click-through rate. Facebook is sending you your ads to maybe more preferred leads. So, but what about the actual person who sees the ad? Well, they have a higher trust because you're not leaving Facebook. There's an assumption that Facebook has kind of screened you a little bit and allowed you to say things and do things. And that is absolutely true. Facebook has a huge amount of rules and guidelines that they make sure you do or don't do. And ads will not be approved if you do not follow those guidelines and rules. So definitely the user can feel more comfortable when the form and the ad are all within Facebook. It's also very simple for the person to use. They can easily click and do it right without leaving in Facebook. And of course, Facebook makes it simple, streamlined experience. And as I said, it often costs a little bit less. Why would you want to use this? And what scenarios does it work best? My experience has also been that when you have events, workshops, tours, open houses, things that are going on, they can be virtual, they can be in actual venues. I've seen it work well for both. So if somebody wants to go to something and that is valuable to them, that sounds interesting. It could also be that you give away something. Typically, it's called a lead magnet, premium content, something of that nature. Maybe it's a consultation, it's a promotion. They get a discount, they get some training, something that's valuable that you're giving to them for free. That's just any kind of lead ad, right? Obviously, you want to collect their information. No one typically will give their information for nothing. You usually have to give them some reason to make it worth their while. And because we have, we're all a little concerned about giving away our email. So this is the best case scenarios of when you would use it. Of course, there might be other reasons why, but this is when it tends to work the best. So now let's go through it and set them up. The first step is something I hope that you've already done because it's going to be difficult to follow along if you haven't done this. And I know we sent it out with the information when you signed up, but you're going to need to connect your Facebook account, your ads account to HubSpot. And the way to do that, you would go to marketing. There's a drop down ads. Then at the top right, you would click connect account. And then you follow, there's a few prompts that you have to do to connect those two accounts. And that would take a little time. So if you haven't done that, that's okay. All of this is being recorded, and there's a link here. So you'll be able to see this all today and then watch it again later if you weren't able to do that ahead of time. But if you did, then you can just follow along with me. So within HubSpot, you're able to create this whole Facebook lead ad without ever actually leaving HubSpot, because now the two are connected. And you literally do not need to go into Facebook to create this ad campaign. And the way to do that is once you're in HubSpot, you go to the marketing tab, you click ads, and then you click up in the right-hand corner, create ad campaign. The next slide that comes up, or the next screen that comes up, is giving you these options of different types of ads, kind of like what we saw in the very first couple of slides, where it's showing you what kind of objective, what are you trying to do with Facebook? Now, in this case, we have Google and LinkedIn, so you see some of those icons there, but we are doing specifically, in this case, Facebook ads, and we click on the lead generation ad. And then you could see if you wanted to do LinkedIn, you could click down on LinkedIn too, but we're just focused on Facebook for now. But it's very similar with LinkedIn too. So once you've chosen your objective, then you just hit next, takes you to the next screen. And now you're going to start filling everything out. The first part is to select a page. With any Facebook ad, you must have a Facebook page the ads run through. So if you haven't created a page for your business or your organization, that needs to happen. And that happens sometimes with clients who haven't really done much with Facebook in the past. You know, the first step is really to create that page and make sure, again, that you know you have admin access to it. Once you, if that is not showing up, the page is not showing up, means you do not have admin access to it. So you need to get whoever does have access, give you access. And then you just click on that and you'll see a list of any pages that you have access to. You select the correct one. So in this case, it would be Inverve Marketing, and I selected that. And then the next thing that you would do is decide, am I going to create this from scratch, or am I going to select something that I've already built in the past? And of course, since this is new, I'm assuming new to many folks, then you would want to click create new campaign, and then you can name it whatever you want. It's good to have a naming convention of some sort. And so whatever it is, typically, you know, it could be the project, and you can say, you know, I often number them because you might run this several times and test different versions. So whatever it is, you let's say it's, you know, you call it lead ad. Well, here I have an example. In this case, I call it test. I put IV for Inverve. I put lead because this is a lead ad and this is the first campaign. If I did multiple campaigns, I would just use the same for all of them and just use 2, you know, for the next one. So that's how you would create the actual new campaign. So we're starting to build it. Then you really, one of the most important aspects of any Facebook ad is the image. The image is what stops the scroll. So you want something that is relevant, but also, because you don't want it to be spammy or clickbaity or anything like that, but you do want it to catch somebody's eye, that they give you that pause, that, you know, that second or two to see what exactly this is. And as long as you have that with some compelling text and headline, then you do have the chance of getting somebody clicking on your ad. So in this case, you click where it says select image, and you can either have already uploaded it into HubSpot, or you can just add a file. You can, literally drag it in, or you can, if you've already put it in there, you just search for it and you click whatever image you want to use for your ad. And you can do multiple ads. That is absolutely a good best practice, to have several ads. You're testing. Number one thing you want to test is the image. When you start out, you want to test. Typically, I like to start with at least 3 images that are not in any way similar. That way you get the idea of what type of image is working best. So often a person smiling, either looking close directly at, at the camera, or to the right or left, that tends to work very well, but you want to mix it up with other images just to see, just in case. So in this case, we're starting with one image that is on our website, and it is compelling. It has it's obviously fun, and it does in a way relate, because you'll see with the copy how we tie it together. But it does have to be consistent with what you're doing, what the goal of, what is it that what service or product you offer. So it has to be relevant. It can't be just totally, like I said, out in left field. Then you want to add in your copy, your headline, and your call to action. The call to action is just a drop-down menu, but the text and the headline, you do need, I always have that kind of on the side. I've decided what it's going to be, but you can change this. So if for right now you didn't think to write it ahead of time, that's okay. You can go back and edit this at any time and mix it up. I would suggest that once you've written it and published it, you should not change the ad. Once it's approved and running, then if you want to change it, the best practice is to stop that ad and clone it and create another one with whatever change you need. Too many changes within an ad, Facebook, the bots get a little nervous with that, and they might bing you for it. They might ding you for it. They might think there's something odd going on. So best practice is to just stop the ad, clone it, create a new ad, and make whatever change you need. Then once you've filled all that, again, just best practice, the headline is going to be right here. Well, I should stop. There are many, many placements within Facebook. This is typically what you would see in the newsfeed placement there. And then this can also be running on Instagram. So you want to make sure that you look at the different placements, and the headline doesn't always show up on these placements. But the most important ad, in my opinion, is the feed ad. That is where you will typically get the most leads and the most activity in any sort of ad that you run on Facebook. So the headline is quite important, but on Instagram, you won't see the headline. So keep that in mind when you're building out ads. You might want to duplicate a little bit of that in the headline, also in the copy. And so the headline is going to kind of draw them in the ad. The copy is what's really going to get them to take action. So they're all really key, important elements of the ad. The call to action, you can, like I said, click this arrow and pick several things. There's a whole bunch of options that you can choose from. Learn more typically works the best, but in this case, you might want to try sign up or whatever it is. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of different options you can choose from. In this case, I decided to try sign up, and that's another thing you can test. But again, start with the image. Do exactly the same copy, headline, and call to action, but test different images first. Then, once you find the image that works the best, you can test one thing at a time. Don't do multiple things, because then you don't know which work the best. And usually I would start with the text or the headline. The call to action, it tends to be one of the last things I test, but that's your call, and you can play around with that. But this is how it looks once you fill it out. Now we're going to build the actual form. So you click here. You could have already created the form ahead of time. You can create the form and it will populate within here. You could have done it within Facebook. You could have done it months ago and it will show here. But today we're just going to create one together so you know how to do it. And you can see once I click that, all these different forms show up. So I could have picked one of those or just selected create new form. And then you start filling it out. So again, you would name it. I like to name it the same thing that's going with ad campaign. But again, you might have different purposes for this, and the form isn't necessarily the campaign. So in this case, it is, and that's why I kept it the same, to keep it clear to me what ad and form go together. Now, some of this stuff, like the intro, is optional. So there's a little caret drop down. You click on that, and then this opens up where you can see headline, and that would be what you're going to see when you go to that first slide. When I showed you the whole sequence, this is the first slide that pops up when they click the ad. So in this case, I'm changing it up a little. The first example is going to be different than what I'm actually building here. And this is kind of like a sample ad if I were to do it for this exact event today. So that's what I decided to do for this actual example we're building together. So I put Facebook lead ad workshop as the headline because that is going to be the relevant information. Why are they clicking on this ad? Well, because they want to join the workshop. And then you just give a brief description. Again, if you've written this out much better, you've written it out, you thought it through, and then you just paste it in when you're ready to actually create the ad. So you fill out those two things, and then you hit create at the bottom. I didn't put a arrow, but then you, oh no, sorry, wait. We still have to do fill out the form and the thank you. So this is the first part. So we've done that. Then we're going to click on form. And when you click on form, that opens up and you fill out that section. And this is what I was telling you. So it defaults to this in the form where the first, last name, and email will pre-populate if you want that. This would be their email they use to sign into Facebook. But maybe that isn't. And in the case of the first example, it wasn't. Wanted their work email. So you could hit the trash can, that goes away, add another field. Could be work email, it could be their position, it could be what company they work for. You can put a bunch of things in here, but you don't want to put a lot, because the more people have to fill out, the more nervous they get about filling out, giving more information than is necessary. So I wouldn't do a whole lot more than their name, email, and company, or maybe 3 to 4 things, but not a lot more than that. If you have a privacy policy, which I strongly recommend you do create that on your website, because a lot of these platforms are looking for that. You would just put the link to the privacy policy, and they're simple to create. You can go to Google, privacy policies, and you can get all sorts of examples. And then you just take that language and make it your own if you want to run it through your, attorney, just to make sure everything is cool. But that is a great thing. Facebook loves it, and you want to be more Facebook friendly, especially when you're actually getting leads directly off of Facebook. So I strongly recommend that. So you put this in, and then the next, you don't need to do this. You can, the notice and consent, that's even more, explaining, people, it's just like when you do leads, like have somebody fill out a lead form on a landing page, you can get a little more granular with this. And then that's building your list and, making sure like somebody really does want to get their information. But in this case, I didn't feel it was necessary. That you can look at and decide if you want to add that layer to it, but I decided not to do that. The last part is then you hit, so this is when they're going to fill out the information, those 2 slides that come in the middle, and then the last slide is the thank you one. So you can put in there, you know, thank you, you're all set. You write whatever you want, just so they know, okay, I did it, I'm done. And you now do have their information because they've submitted it. And then whatever text you want to paste in here, just to give them any final instructions. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. But you can give them a link to your website or a specific page that gives them more instructions, or maybe they need to download the PDF, whatever it might be. This is where you would put all that. The URL, this is a button. So once you fill all this out, then you hit create, and you can now review what you've created. So you kind of back into the main screen, and you take right here, put the arrow, you can toggle through everything that you've created just to review it. So you can see, here's my text, here's my headline, and my call to action and my image. You could also do a video too. If you wanted to do a video, that's also a good idea to test. Then you click to the next one. The next slide shows that I just put them all in one slide here for you to see. If you click this little arrow, it's showing me the sign up page and then the thank you page. So you can review everything, proofread it, make sure everything is to your liking. Once you create this form, you really can't edit it. You just have to create another one. If you see something later you don't like, you're just going to have to create another one. You can't really edit forms once they've been created. So that's why it's good to have it all done ahead of time, and then you're just putting it in and you're ready to go. So you're pasting it in. So once you've created the ad and the form, now you're going to focus on the targeting. This is the same with any Facebook ad. You're going to figure out, well, what targeting, what budget, what schedule, and then setting up with automation. So all of these things at the top. But at this point, I would save it. Just save your work. So you've got this, you've done quite a bit so far. So go ahead and save what you've done. And then now we're going to move on to the actual, building out the rest of the ad. So the targeting is, there's so many options with targeting, but to keep it simple, and in this case, we're just running throughout the United States, but you could do zip codes, you can do cities, states. So there's a lot of options, countries. In this case, I just did United States. You could do 2 countries, you could do 2 states, it doesn't matter. You can go on and on with whatever geographical area you want to focus on. Age range, again, you can focus on whatever ages you want. And then you can add more filters to this. So if you already have been running Facebook ads and you have you've uploaded like your list of contacts, and then from there created a lookalike audience, you could select that. That is a great tactic, but again, I'm assuming most people haven't really built that out and done that yet. So in this case, I decided, we're just going to build out the targeting, and in any personal attributes, you would click here and I'll show you what that looks like. But I just wanted to mention, so right now, as the audience is right now, it's a super huge open audience. We have almost the whole population of the United States. Well, it's not the whole population because we're only doing 21 to 65 United States. We haven't really trimmed down the targeting. This would be really huge audience. You don't want this large of an audience, right? You want to make it more relevant to the people who will be interested in whatever you are offering. So that's why we're going to narrow down with the next option. So we click this bottom one, and then this other window opens up, and you can see all these different options. You can go through and pick out the type of demographics you'd like, the type of interest you want to focus on, behaviors, all of these things you could look at, like the categories and subcategories. But you can also just type in, if you know something, you've done a lot of ads, or you're familiar, or you just want to start with a subject. In this case, if I wanted to reach people who are interested in marketing, I just type in marketing. And that's what I did. And then I get a bunch of results, and then I click on the ones that are relevant to who I want to reach, who I want to target. But this is fun to play around with. This is really where the magic of Facebook shines, because there's so much data here, and you can get very granular with it. So marketing is really almost too broad. I wouldn't normally click this, but I just wanted to show you, this is still a huge amount of people, 136 million people. Again, that's too many. So if I unclick this, digital marketing, this would then go down. The number of people that I'm going to hit who will see this ad would, or potentially see it, because it's the pool of people that Facebook would show this ad to, but it's also based on how much money you're going to spend. So this is one factor of who it will reach, the targeting in terms of their interests, their behavior, and so forth. So once you've decided on that, you hit save. And then you go to the next tab here, which is budget and scheduling. Like I mentioned, it is also determined on how much are you spending. If you're spending $10 versus $100 versus $1,000 a day, you're going to get a wider spectrum of people and a bigger pool, right? That's just the way it works. The more you spend, the more people, the more impressions your ad will be served. Because Facebook, most of the time, you do have this ability to pick how you are billed, but it's most often recommended and traditionally done by impressions. So you're buying the ads by impressions, 1,000 impressions. Usually they give you the rate of whatever. And once you've built this out, you can see this directly in Facebook. Doesn't necessarily show it here, but that is why it's important. And you pick an amount per day. You can pick the start day, the end day, or you can let it kind of run whenever and just keep an eye on it and turn it off. But if you have an event, you definitely want to set an end date so that it doesn't go beyond your event, or maybe a couple of days prior to your event, whatever it is. But you have the ability to do that, and it's very simple. You just put in the date and the time. You then at that point, you could publish it, but there's one last thing. Because this is a lead ad, you want to set up what happens with that lead. So somebody fills out the form, then what? If you weren't connected to HubSpot, then what happens is Facebook generates basically a file, like an Excel file of all those leads. And then you manually have to download them and then enter them into whatever email platform you have. And then you would send them emails. It's a very manual thing. Now there are other automated services that Facebook connects with, but HubSpot does it all. So that's the beauty of this whole thing. You've created the ad. Now, when the lead comes in, you want to know, well, what will happen? So you hit automation right here. And first of all, when there's a new lead, who's going to be notified? So I want to be notified. You could put other people on your team. As long as they're within within your HubSpot account, you can add them here. And then what do you want to name this list? So again, I'm just, test list, but you'd want it to be something that you can remember that's similar or the same as what this whole campaign has been called. So that would be just creating the list, and the list will be directly within HubSpot. It's creating contacts in HubSpot, and then a list of those contacts. And then what do you do with that list? Well, you're telling HubSpot, okay, I want you to put all these people that come from Facebook, from this Facebook lead ad, into this new list I've created, and I want to be notified every time this happens, or whoever else you want to add. But we also want to go the next step, because we want those people to automatically get some notification that they've been included into this, whatever it is that you're giving away. In this case, it's a workshop. Okay, hey, you are signed up for the workshop, or maybe there's more steps for them to take. So that's when you do the advanced automation. So you would hit this little caret thing, this pops up, and then you're going to create a workflow, just like you would do in HubSpot for any other workflow. But best practices is that they would automatically get an email after they've filled out their form, just like you would do with a regular lead ad on a landing page. You want people to know, okay, great, we've got your information. Here's next steps, or thank you very much. We're so excited. Now you've moved into the email marketing realm, and that is what you would want to think through before you start this whole campaign. And you can go and do the steps for that. I didn't go through that because that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother workshop, but that would be the best practice to keep, like I said, a whole streamlined process of the person sees your ad within Facebook and they click on it, they fill out the form, they then are now automatically sent an email with further instructions or thank you and so forth. And then you now have them as your contact, and you can keep reaching out to them for other reasons, or to remind them about the event, or whatever it is. There's so much more. That's a huge value of running lead ads within Facebook. It's simple, and now you've got a valuable asset, which is a new contact, somebody who's a legit lead for whatever it is that you are promoting. So kind of whizzed through that, probably too fast, but I wanted to make sure I covered everything. This is what it looks like when you hit publish and you're in HubSpot, and this is the dashboard now. It's all set up, it's on. Doesn't necessarily mean it's live yet. And that's the thing I wanted to touch on, because you're doing all of this within HubSpot, which is fabulous, but I still think it's smart to go directly into Facebook and just double check. Where are we at? You go into the ads manager. If you're not familiar with it, then you'd probably want to maybe watch a couple of YouTube videos or something to get a little more familiar with the actual ads manager platform. Facebook has tons of training, free training on how to navigate and manage your ads with an ads manager. I'm not saying you need to do that. What I'm saying, though, is good practice to go in and just check that your ad hasn't been, that it's processing. Soon it'll say, this is immediately after it happens, it'll say processing. Then it will say in review. And Facebook could take 15 minutes. It could take 2 days to review your ad. If it's taking 2 days, that means you're brand new and it's not quite sure. Sometimes, though, it doesn't get approved, and it will give you reasons why. Often it's because you've been singling people out. That is never a positive thing in Facebook. You do not want to do that in any way. So, hey, it would be something where it sounds like about this person. Hey, green-haired people who like cherry popsicles, okay, whoa. People get freaked out when they see ads like this. How do they know I like these things? So Facebook doesn't want to single people out, and so that can be a big reason why you get dinged. But generally, if you're following best practices, your ads get approved, and then you'll see that they're approved and running. So this is just to make sure it went through, everything's good on this side. And I think it's just good to make sure that, and the ad is on, you can see it's on. If let's say you set it up and you just want to make sure you publish it, but you actually don't want to start it right away, you can just toggle it off here, or back where we were, you could toggle it off here. Either way. The other thing I wanted to say before we finish is that once you create this ad, you can go back into Facebook and make changes here too if you wanted. And it will all be tracked and it will all continue to work. Unless, of course, you're adding whole new campaigns. Now, no, it won't work. You got to go back into HubSpot and create a new campaign from scratch like we just went through. So that is basically the whole cycle. Once the ad is up and running and they fill out the form, you will then see these populate within your contacts, just like somebody creating contact on a form on a landing page, just a random landing page you've set up. Same sort of thing. These contacts are filled out the first time after clicking on an ad. Any contacts converting more than once across your campaigns will only appear once on the list. So that's just to make sure you understand that. And this is how it looks. It just will go into that list as contacts, and we'll then track them with any further activity if you've got landing pages you've set up to send them to and so forth. So that is the whole ball of wax. And now I'm curious if people have questions, if there's something they need help with, or that you've done something that you want to share. So I think I need to stop sharing.
I am actually going to allow our guests here to come on as presenters. So if you've got questions or if you'd like to share screen and have us help you with any of your lead ads, this is an opportunity to do that. I am going to stop the recording though, because we don't need to see that in the recording.